Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 47 of our Mental Health Impact series. My name is Ankita, and I am the program coordinator at Reach Out Together. Every single week, we host our interviews about mental health. So this Friday, we have the one and only Aashni Sawjani from Leicester, United Kingdom. Welcome, Aashni. How are you feeling today?
Thank you, Ankita. I'm very okay. How are you?
I'm all good, thank you. I'm very excited to get this conversation started. Actually,
Same,
let's
same.
start.
I'm actually looking forward to it.
Actually, let's start by you telling us a little bit more about yourself.
This question always puts me on the spot. For somebody who loves talking, that's the one thing that really makes me awkward, but I can try. So I'm Aashni. I am a 27-year-old law graduate, investigative journalism graduate. I actually run a podcast as well that focuses on speaking about stigmatized topics like consent, mental health, things like that. But more than that, I think I'm a girl who's been born and brought up in Kenya. And I grew up with a Canadian education system, and here I am with 3 British degrees living in England. And if I had to sum up, I'm a multicultural, multilingual girl just trying to find her space in the world.
I love that. I honestly, and I can relate to that. Like you, I've been exposed to 3 different cultures: the Indian culture, the Nigerian culture, being raised in Africa, and the British culture because I did my education at my university there. Anshul, I really want to know what brought you here. Like, how's your journey been like with mental health? The struggles that you've faced or are continuing to face.
The journey I feel to mental health has been consistent. It's like in waves. I've had my ups, I've had my downs, and it starts with home. It's what I said. To begin with, I am a girl. I'm a brown girl. I'm a brown Gujarati girl. So as girls, like you're already like the minute you begin to exist. Like you already have a certain set of rules and regulations that are imposed on you by society. And being the girl that I am, I feel I've always been a bit of a rebellion because I'll be like, no, why can't I do this? Why can't I, I want to do this. So it began very early on. And I feel like that just followed through because when you're born in Africa, that's by heritage, that's not me, right? I'm Gujarati, I'm Indian by heritage. So the struggle began just with those two. And then when you add my education into it, I'm learning a Canadian education system. So I'm now a girl with Indian heritage in Africa learning a Canadian education system. So add that into it. And then now add my British degrees into it. So I feel like you can call it identity crisis if you might, but I'm just going to stick to Aashni. This is me. This is who I am. And it's been 27 long years of like working on accepting who I am, and yeah, it's a journey. I'm still on it. I'm still finding my way.
Wow, I love that. Honestly, I really love that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Ashley, so knowing what you've been exposed to so many different cultures, you've been traveling from one country to another country. What are your steps towards maintaining a positive mental health?
It's the one thing I can say is it's not easy. Especially if you don't know, coming from where I came from, the last 7 years have been much more easier because in the Western side of the world, people are more accepting, more open about things like this. It helps that I do a podcast that tackles these topics, so it's been easier. But back home, for instance, people didn't really know. People didn't talk about these things, and I think the one thing that has been consistent for me has been dance. Or for some people it's movement, but for me it's dance. It's my happy place. Like even if you go into my Instagram, it's solely dedicated to like my happy place, because whether I'm sad or I'm angry or I'm happy, even, that's my outlet because that's how I communicate. And the other thing I do is I write. I write a lot, and whether it's journaling or like just taking my phone and noting things down, because sometimes you want to talk but you don't know how to phrase it to other people. So I think that the way I tackle it is just movement and words. That's what I do, and I would suggest people try. If they haven't found their way, try this. It might work.
I think that's amazing. Journaling is amazing. Dancing is amazing. It's an amazing form of expression. And Aashni, the topic for this month is the basics of mental health. So I want to break a myth right here, right now, while we're live for our audience. I'm going to be
Okay.
asking you a question. I'm going to be asking you a question, and I really want your thoughts on it. Are you
Okay,
ready?
so you're putting me on the spot. Come on, let's do this.
Are you ready?
Yeah, hopefully I won't embarrass myself.
Okay. So, in your own words, do you think mental health and mental illnesses are the same thing?
You know what? I'm glad you've asked me this question because I have, been associated with We Chat Together for a couple of weeks now, and I've had my training. So had I not had my training, my answer would have been completely different to the one I'm going to give you now. But no, it is not the same thing. One of the first things that I learned, and I didn't know about it, I was guilty about it, is that mental health and mental illness are not the same thing. We all have mental health, things like anxiety, depression, feeling down, lethargic, lazy, that's normal. We all do that. We all feel that. But it becomes an illness when it's not tackled, it's not dealt with. You suppress it and you ignore it. So it's only an illness if you fail to deal with it and it becomes prolonged. So no, they're not the same thing. I hope I bust that myth. Ankita? Was it that bad? Did I answer it that wrong?
Not a problem at all. That was actually really, really well said, and thank you so much
That's
for
okay.
answering the question. Have you personally, Aashni, given that you've had so much different experience, have you personally experienced stigma?
I have, yes. It's been, again, like it's been a constant battle. I feel like as a person of color, just and being the gender that I am, and it's sad that I say this, but just growing up, I think, you're constantly battling. I've been fortunate though that I've had a very supportive family and I've not faced it internally in my immediate surrounding, but just growing up, seeing the society I'm around, like I started a photography business as soon as I finished high school. I took 2 years of a gap year. And I was doing it with a partner who was male at that point because we decided to start this business together. And just the stigmas around that. Why is she working? Why is she working with a boy? Why is she doing photography? Girls are not out till like in the midnight taking photos. And there's me doing hard work, trying to earn money, not depending on my family, doing, trying and, going into a creative field. That didn't happen. I was the first girl in Mombasa to start photography. But people didn't see that. And as much as it gets to you now and again, if you know you're on the right path, I think it gets a lot more easier. And even now, what I do with the podcast, I'm talking about things that are highly stigmatized in the Asian community. And yeah, like, or in community as general, not just the Asian community, actually, talking about consent, talking about mental health, talking about rape culture and things like that. It's the stigmas are there, but my main aim, honestly, is to just try keep breaking away. I think that's one thing my father has taught me. Just keep breaking away at that glass ceiling, one bit at a time. So hopefully we'll get there.
I love that, Aashni. Thank you so much for sharing. Aashni, is there one message that you'd like to share with the audience? Perhaps someone who's just tuned in, maybe someone's not feeling very good. Anything that you'd like to share?
I think the one thing that I will share is more a word. Just believe. It's something, random fact about me, it's something I want to tattoo on me somewhere as a reminder. It's the one word I consistently use. And when I say believe, I just believe that it's going to be okay. We all have down days. I had a horrible day yesterday, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to believe that this day is going to be over soon and tomorrow is going to be a better day. And here I am giving this talk right now. So, and just have faith in yourself, be kind to yourself, believe in yourself. You don't have to be religious or spiritual even. You just need to believe. That's the first step, that you're going to be okay. And other than that, just if you're passionate about something, if you want to do something, just keep breaking away at that glass ceiling, and eventually it will chip off and you'll see the stars or the sunshine, whatever you prefer.
Wow, I love that. And Aashni, how do you think we can reduce stigma, within our community? How do we break that stigma?
I think the best way is to educate, to communicate. I know for a fact that high school doesn't deal with these things. You're learning, like, when you look at our parents, they're wired a certain way. And sometimes whatever they teach you subconsciously stays with you. So you need to unlearn. You need to unlearn, and that's okay. But you also need to communicate. High schools need to tackle things like mental health. We're taught first aid, but why are we not taught mental health, So educate yourselves and communicate. How many times have we refrained from talking to our friends when we're feeling down because we're like, no, like, should I talk about this? Should I not? So educate and just communicate. I feel that those are the first steps to breaking these stigmas.
I love that. And I strongly believe that mental health education needs to be started from a very young age.
Definitely.
It's something that is so needed, so required in times like this. Aashni, how do you think we can encourage mental health education?
Like, you know what? It's what the foundation says. Reach out together. I mean, because we're ambassadors, we have had the fortune of being trained. We're fortunate enough to know that it's a thing, and the only way to encourage it is to reach out. Sometimes people don't even know that mental health is a thing, that they need to be given training for it. So reach out if you're somebody who's passionate about it, if you've been trained to do it, or even if you're not trained about it but passionate about it. Reach out to our foundation, and we will provide you with the tools that you need, and then implement that into your workplace, implement that into your family. Talk to your parents about it, talk to your siblings about it, talk to your friend circle about it. Like how we have night outs, have a session where you all watch a training video together, because it is important. So I would say, as to encourage it ourselves, reach out to people, be like, hey, are you interested? This is something that needs to be done. And the worst case scenario, it's going to be a no, but in the best case scenario, it's going to be a yes. And what better than a yes?
Wow, I love that. I think you put it really perfectly. Aashni, I really want to know what the mental health situation is like back in home, back in your country, in Africa, in Kenya.
Yeah.
How's the system there? How does it work? If someone wants to reach out for help, what's the procedure? What's the steps?
It honestly, somewhere it breaks my heart that this is going to be my answer. And perhaps that's also why I started my podcast in the littlest of ways. So I have so many connections and friends back home who I know are listening, but there isn't help as per se. I mean, bear in mind, I haven't lived there for the last 7 years. So things have improved a little bit. You now have people who are doing psychology. You have people who are starting up that conversation, but we're a very far place away, and it needs to be normalized. So there isn't a hotline as per se. And if there is, I know for a fact that it's not as quick and responsive as the one in the western side of the world. But it's unfortunate that there isn't a direct place they can go to. So all I can say is reach out together. Maybe if there are people in Kenya listening, like, reach out to us, Instagram, Facebook, email, just reach out and you'll probably get the help that you're looking for.
For sure, 100%. I love that, Aashni. Thank you so much. Aashni, can you please tell us a little bit more about your podcast?
Yeah, sure. So the podcast, I've been the kind of person who's very open talking about things. If I've gone on a bad date, or I've got a weird message of some sort, or I just have this interesting observation about us, I'll talk about it to my friends. And most often I'll see them want to talk about it, but they'll shy away or they'll cringe at it. And it got me thinking, like, why? And I was speaking to a friend about it when the first lockdown happened in England. And we were like, you know what, let's just do a podcast and try tackle this shyness, this awkwardness. And that's why the podcast is called Okay, Is This Awkward? Because every time you bring it up, it does become awkward. And the main point for the podcast is to just normalize stigmatized taboo topics, talk about, like I said, consent, periods. The latest episode I did was on periods, and there was a quiz I put up, and even just seeing the answers that the females were giving, and them getting it wrong surprised me. I'm like, we get our periods every month. But the fact that they were getting these answers wrong tells me that there's no communication, there's no education, and they're probably affected by whatever I'm affected with. So it essentially, in a nutshell, is to just get the ball going, get communication happening, get the conversation started to try break the barriers.
Wow, I love that. What made you volunteer at Reach Out Together?
Very honestly, this really talented girl who I've worked with in the past called Ankita Paryani. She we've had the pleasure of like working together on a different committee at university together, and she told me about it. And initially it was like, okay, this is going to keep me busy, it's going to give me something to put onto my CV. But once my training began, I realized that this is a foundation that's doing something very crucial, very important, especially at a time like this. And it started with just a recommendation, but I've stayed because everything that the foundation does resonates with my ideologies, the work that they've done, the events. When I look at the history of all the events that have been done, and just in the short span of time, in 5 years, doing these many events and getting through to these many people, I think that's what stayed with me. The fact that they're making a difference in the mental health scene. I came because of a friend. I've stayed because of the ideologies.
I love that, Aashni, and I'm so looking forward to be working with you again.
Hey.
Aashni, before we end this discussion, let's quickly go over what the Reach Out Together logo stands for. By any chance, do you know what that means?
No. But it's
That's okay. That's okay. So it's 2 fists.
Okay.
Just like that. So this hand symbol represents together in sign language. And we use the color orange. We use the color orange because the color orange in color healing therapy brings out feelings of warmth and happiness. And we have a circle around it because the circle represents together, the world.
Oh, that is beautiful. See, I didn't know that, but that's so beautiful.
So our vision at Reach Out Together is to heal the world community by community, conversation by conversation, just like we did today, Aashni. So I'm so happy that you reached out. I'm so happy that you're part of this amazing foundation. And I know we're going to be doing amazing things together. So thank you so much for being here, for sharing your time, your journey.
Thank you for having me. I couldn't have honestly asked for a better person to start this off with, to talk, to have this conversation with. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
Lovely. To everyone else who's still tuned in, if you have an experience that you would like to share, please get in touch with our team via email at event@reachouttogether, and we will get back to you. Thank you once again, Aashni, for keeping it so real and being part of this organization.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye.